Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Unlocking Big Magic. I'm Leslie Pyne. I'm author of Finding Joy Beyond Childlessness, which is just there, blogger and all-round creative person. And this week we're going to talk about divinity and beyond, interestingly, whatever beyond is. We're recording this in January 2021. We recorded the other episodes in November, December last year. So for me, that's been really helpful. It's been a great time to reflect, and I don't think I would have come up with the sort of things that changed me quite as much. So yeah, and I'm going to hand straight over to Cali. So yeah, welcome.
Hello. So yeah, I'm Cali Bird. I am author of this book, Tales of the Countess. If you like talking handbags, you might like it. Talking handbags meets Sex and the City meets Toy Story. And I also blog about creativity at Gentle Creative. And yeah, it's been amazing doing these 6 episodes. We've done this sort of what I call a tooth comb read of Big Magic. Big Magic. Big Magic,
yes. Yeah.
Which we did mainly last year, and I've read the book twice before, and I got so much out of going through it and typing up quotes. And certainly in my Gentle Creative community, you can expect blogs come from over the next few months.
Yes.
From the things we've just touched on here, and quotes that I've picked out, because I think there's a lot more you could say on any one point. And the book is absolutely loaded with great stuff about creativity, any barriers you might be having, any reasons why you're not doing it. You'll find a reference in the book. Just read it, get on with it, do it. So the last chapter, it's 6 chapters in the book. This is chapter 6. It's called Divinity. Now I have to say it's the shortest chapter. It's just a few pages. It's an anecdote about Balinese dancing and the sacredness and not sacredness. And I can't really summarize this story. It does make a point, but I can't summarize it. It's a great story. But so I'm not going to say any more on that, but Leslie and I, it's coming up for a couple of years ago now, isn't it? We did a workshop with Elizabeth Gilbert in London, based on this book, and what she had us doing in this workshop, and it took all day. We were there, it was like 10 till 4 or something, wasn't it? It was the day Harry and Meghan got married, because I remember I was looking at the dress on the phone at lunchtime.
Exactly, we were, weren't we?
I missed the wedding. And so basically she had us write a letter from each of these personalities. So we wrote a letter to ourselves from our fear. Imagine your fear sitting at the kitchen table, just spilling out all its worries. And we did enchantment, where your playful side gets to speak. We talked about permission, where we wrote ourselves a permission from the headmaster. And again, we've talked about all of these things in the episodes we've done in this series. We talked about persistent, we talked about trust. And then the last one was divinity. And I found this really profound. It doesn't have to be about, God or, whatever your spiritual beliefs are. I'm a Buddhist, so, don't do God in the traditional sense. But divinity, I really think, is your inner wisdom. So it's like we wrote to ourselves from our inner wisdom. Inside, we have all the fear and all the crap and all the stuff that stops us. But underneath that, we've got this amazing well of wisdom, of courage, compassion, creativity. And I think by the sort of the end of this workshop and listening to her wisdom, we were able to write to ourselves from this point. And I found it really profound. And I can feel myself almost like just, catching a tear in my throat as I say that. And it was a really amazing exercise. And I do this exercise every few weeks. In fact, when we finish recording, I'm going to sit here and do it again. It takes me about half an hour, and I call it the selves. All of these are a side of ourselves, and I whip through them all. And then divinity tells me all the stuff I'm worried about. Divinity just tells me, do this, don't that, don't worry about this. Yeah, that's a risk, but you could do this about it, or you've got it, Cali, you can do it. It will be okay. So divinity is that side that just knows, and that you can trust in yourself.
It's like it's all going to be okay, isn't it? That's the the message, I think, some of it.
Yeah,
Part of it anyway.
we have the resources
Exactly.
that we
Yes.
need.
Yeah.
So kind of that's kind of what divinity means to me, and it's been really profound. And so it's 2 years since we did that workshop, and I regularly do this exercise, and it grounds me in my creativity and any choices or decisions I need to make.
Yeah, that's lovely, isn't it? I think what she is, I think what one of the things she said was there's a fight going on between us, between all these different personalities, and so if you let them, give them a voice, then they sort of calm down, I guess. Don't they?
Yeah,
They
let them speak.
place to be heard, you know. So we can come to an agreement between all of them, and that's partly what the exercise did. It wasn't and it's interesting when you say that. I do it, but I've not had anything quite as profound with the divinity. But that's the beauty of this.
We're all different.
We're all different, and yeah, I'd be interested to see. We're going to talk in a minute about the 3 things that have been profound for us this time, and I'll be interested to see what yours are. And I bet they're all different, and that's just it, isn't it? It's just great. Yeah. Fabulous.
So you want to talk about your sort of creative, biggest
yeah,
creative project ever you wrote to me?
yeah, I think for me that was one thing. It was like, what's a creative life? And it's, for me, it's about living your best life. And grief, which I know we've all been through, and particularly a lot of those who are on my blog list will have been through that childless grief. And grief is a creative opportunity, I think, because it's about there's a life you thought you were going to have, but it's about how do you have this one, and particularly where we are at the moment in the world. You know, we're all, you know, you're working from home and you used to go into the office. How do you do that? That's a creative opportunity to. So I think, you know, I think it's not just about making things creativity. It's about how you live your life. And I think for my tribe, it would be who can you be? Who can you be that you couldn't have been if you'd been a mother? That's a nice question, isn't it?
It's really profound. Who could you be if you couldn't? No, you say it.
Who can you be? I'm reading it out. Who can you be that you couldn't have been if you were a mother?
Wow.
So that's an opportunity, and that takes a lot of creativity to answer, and courage. You know, we've talked about courage. It sort of requires a bit of everything, doesn't it? So it's giving you permission, listening to your intuition, trusting yourself, all of that. So yeah, I just encourage. I mean, everybody's been through grief, or everybody will go through grief, and so that's that opportunity. It's an opportunity. Yeah.
And creative life, because you do all kinds of creative pursuits, don't you? Because I'm more focused around like writing artwork, but you do a wide range of things, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I just and more so, I think these last few weeks it seems to be blossoming. Actually, I'm doing a bit more cooking recently, and I don't know. I'll follow up. We'll talk about this in a minute. Actually, I was preempt things, but just follow what you're interested in. I would say do what you're curious about. But
yeah. Creative life can be many things, can't it?
It can. Yes. Yeah. So we were going to talk about 3. I don't know, revelations actually, or each. So we've got to 8.5 minutes, so we're okay. We've got
about 4 minutes each, haven't we?
Yeah. So what would be your first then? What is your first?
Okay, so based on this reading and the work we've done and what's sort of come out, I kind of picked my 3 favorite sections really. There's a sentence which from our first episode, the courage episode, and I'll just read it. It's on page 13. And I hadn't noticed this sentence when I've read this book before. There's 2 sentences, but it's the latter one. And we all know that when courage dies, creativity dies with it. And here we go. We all know that fear is a desolate boneyard where our dreams go to desiccate in the hot sun. I just love this sentence. As a writer, I'm like, oh, that's so good. I'm going to read it again. Yeah. We all know that fear is a desolate boneyard where our dreams go to desiccate in the hot sun. And I think in my world, in my Gentle Creative blog and what I do, I just encourage people to do their thing anyway. Fear in all its manifestations is what stops us, and it's so tragic.
Yeah.
And so I suppose my work and what I write about is just about, nudging yourself through that one baby step at a time.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
but I think that summarizes why I do what I do, because I don't want people to go through that, and I don't want to go through that.
Yeah. You don't want to be in the boneyard. Yeah,
No.
it is a great quote, that, isn't it? I knew you were going to pick that one. I just knew. My first is about following your curiosity. And I think for me, it's like that. I never knew what my passion is. I don't know what my passion or purpose is. And she has that fabulous alternative about following your curiosity, which is a word I struggle to say for some strange reason.
Yeah.
But so, what are you interested in? Follow it a little bit. Follow it another, and it's as permanent or as temporary as you want it to be. Whereas passion and purpose feels like finite, certain. You've got to do that. Follow this. Do it that way.
To the exclusion of all other, isn't it? It's got that connotation. It doesn't mean that, but it's got those connotations the way we use it at the moment.
Well, whereas you asked me the question about and that's for me. It's that I'm curious about this at the moment. I'm curious about, and it doesn't mean to say just I'm curious about it now, but I might not be curious about it next year, and that's okay. So it gives me going back to intuition. Sort of intuition strikes. I'm interested in this. Let's go with it for a bit. Give myself permission to go with it for a little while, and just see what happens. And it's sort of, and this is that has changed my life hugely. Wow. And that was when that was the quote that I write about it in my book actually. But it when I first read Big Magic, that was the thing. That was the big thing that came out from that one. So follow your curiosity. Yeah.
Wasn't one of my takeaways, but I'm finding myself doing that a lot at the moment. In different projects and what I'm going to be doing in the next few months. And it's like I don't have a fixed idea, but I'm just curious to see. So I think that's rubbed off on both of us.
Good. So your next one?
My next one, it's really my favourite chapter. I mean, the first chapter, Courage, it's got lots of anecdotes and antidotes to fear and great stories about fear. My next favourite chapter was the persistence one. And that really hit home for me. The latter half of this chapter, she talks about having a day job and being creative. Because unfortunately, I work part-time on my day job. But I've always done it. I test software. I work with the sort of accountants and debits and credits from an IT perspective. And I wish I didn't have to do that. I'm always jealous of people that don't. I've been so jealous over the last year, people who've been furloughed, and I know that's come with its own problems, and I know people have lost their work and everything. I mean, everyone's had their own time, or their hard time in their own way. But in this chapter, towards the end of this chapter, she talks about taking responsibility for yourself. And she kind of wags her finger and says, look, I know you just want to sit all cozy in your studio where someone else takes care of the realities of daily life. But you need to take care of yourself, and you can really tell she's wagging her finger. And I was like, oh, okay.
She's telling you off there, isn't she?
Yeah. And she talks about, I think through the ages, creative people have often struggled. It's quite universal, juggling paid work, paying the bills, and following that creative curiosity. She's got an anecdote of Herman Melville, who wrote Moby Dick. He wrote a letter to his friend. Oh, if I only had the time, I've got the story to write. I just haven't got the time. I've got so much other stuff on it. So it's not a problem unique to me. And she also, she just quotes lots of other people, and that it's normal. And I'm just going to read one, sort of the last bit of this chapter, because often you think you're crazy. You think, God, I get up an hour before work, but before I need to. I'm often exhausted, but I kind of have to do it. And she says, people don't do this kind of thing because they have all kinds of extra time and energy for it. They do this kind of thing because their creativity matters to them enough that they are willing to make all kinds of extra sacrifices for it. And this chapter told me it's okay. Yes, I know it's hard. I know you're struggling. I know you're tired. I know you wish it was different, but you're doing it anyway. So well done.
Exactly.
And that
Well,
meant so
exactly.
much to me. You know.
Yeah. I mean, and your Tales of the Countess is a whole lesson in persistence, isn't it? 20 years in the making, you know that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
but yeah, that's interesting. I had a different take from that chapter about perfectionism, and I always thought of myself as not a perfectionist, and I'm not, in that things aren't perfect, as any of my readers on my blog will know. There'll be typos or sometimes, but it's, and I know that because I've read Brené Brown, that it's about what other people think, but I hadn't really absorbed that. And one way that I sidestep perfectionism is not by not trying. And that was huge for me. And I've done that in the past, and I do sometimes, you know, they could be, I would have a tendency, let's say when I was for today, I prepared for it this morning, and then sometimes I would have just forgotten, or not forgotten, but just put it to one side, and then come 5 minutes, so I wasn't ready, therefore it wasn't good enough. So, you know, that's okay, because I didn't really try, which is, you know, interesting. And you had a really interesting reframe in the talk, and you talk about doing things when you do it, and then separate that from what people think when you've, and that's fine, that is good, that's really helpful, but there's also, what do I think about what I've done? So I think there's I've got some more work to do, let's say.
Yes, never over. It's always more layered.
Oh yes, but there's that great big quote, about perfectionism is just fear in fancy shoes, and I mean, pretending to be elegant actually is just terrified, because underneath it's I'm not good enough, and I'll never be good enough. So there's, you know, I think that for me was deeper. It resonated at a deeper level this time than when I read it before. So yeah.
Yeah, there's so much in this, isn't there?
I know. Yeah. So you have another one?
Well, not a specific one. What comes all the way through this book, and you know, Elizabeth Gilbert has a tremendous work ethic. It's do the work, get on with it. There aren't easy free passes. It's the most amazing ride you'll ever take, whether or not you ever earn money or success or whatever that means. It's about, following that curiosity. And there's a sentence, I think it's in the 3rd chapter: create whatever causes a revolution in your heart. So I just, you know, in so many ways, and she says this so eloquently in so many places in this book, it's quite irrational to follow your creative heart. You know, she's, you know, she did well with Eat, Pray, Love, and you know, she's financially secure from that. But that might not have happened. But she would still have written anyway. And I'm the same. You know, I've sold some Tales of the Countess. It's great. You know, I haven't even made my cost back yet. You know, that can change in the future. But I've done it. It's this irrational need to do it. And so I think all the way through Big Magic, she dismantles any excuses, barriers, any crap you come out with. And we've seen her do tough love in those workshops as well, haven't we?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And she also is, just do it, just play, just do it in a way that works for you, just follow that curiosity, whatever that means to you. And that's just an overriding thing for me. And there's so many amazing things. You know, if you haven't read this book, read it. It is so amazing.
It is. Yeah.
Or reread it if you've got it on your shelf.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I had it was a bit linked to the last one actually. Is about why do I stop? And I think that they talk about that we often stop projects or stop doing things when it becomes hard. And that's when the transformation is. And I think that stopping, creativity is a hero's journey after hero's journey after hero's journey, isn't it? So you accept the call to do it, and then it's easy to start with maybe, and then it becomes harder, and then do you stop or do you carry on? And I know I've got quite a complex embroidery project that I started a while ago, and then I did the easy bits first. Could argue that was a good option or not, but then I stopped, and that my temptation is, why do I want to go back to it? Because it's hard, or do I? And the other temptation I've got is to rush through it, and not really give it the care and attention. So again, that's I mean, courage is one of my values, and I thought I was courageous and carried on, but it seems that I don't. So that's another thing that's, you know, sort of.
But Lesley, you do, because I can see that book behind
Well,
you, and I remember
sometimes.
when you were writing that, and what an emotionally difficult journey that was, because you'd got through a lot of
Yeah.
the grief for childlessness, and then it all
Yeah.
became again. So
But
you do have
it's sometimes, isn't it? I mean, it's not, you know, these things is that, okay, well, why did I stop doing that? Was it because it became hard? I mean, it's just, you know, we're learning more. I'm learning more about myself as I go through this. And this subject, which is kind of linked to perfectionism, I think, is something I'm definitely going to write about. But it was like it was that don't rush through experiences and circumstances that have the most capacity to transform you. And I think that's, you know, I might have that tendency to do that.
And she talks about it being interesting, doesn't she? It's
Yeah.
swapping the word awful for interesting, because we can
Exactly.
say, oh, that's horrible, I can't do it. Or we
Yeah.
can say, this is interesting. It's
Yes.
like observing that, yeah, it's difficult.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's bringing that curiosity to it, I think, isn't it?
It is. And
the courage to just keep going.
yeah, and so maybe sometimes giving yourself permission to give up. It may be, you know, but it's about self-knowledge, isn't it, as well, knowing why you're stopping that. I mean, for me, this again, it's the third time I've read it, and I've learned so much more out of it by digging into it, you know, with you and going through it slowly. So yeah, 21 minutes actually, by the way.
That's it.
So
we better stop then, haven't we?
what
I don't think there's much more we can say. I mean, there is so much. I think we've said enough.
Yeah. Have you got a final quote, or is it your desolate?
I haven't. Just
no.
Yeah. Oh yeah, on my notes I've got desiccated boneyard, page 30. No, I don't have a final quote. It's just doing it. Just finding a way to do what's in your heart. Create whatever causes a revolution in your heart.
You know, that is the create. I was going to that's the quote. It says, it's do whatever brings you to life. Then follow your fascinations, obsessions, and compulsions. Trust them. Create whatever causes a revolution in your heart. The rest will take care of itself. If that's the advice, we both come up with the same thing. So if that's the advice that we give people, that is it, isn't it?
Yeah. And thank you. You know, for those of you who've watched through all of these, thank you for being with us, because we've done this just for the sheer hell of it, haven't we, Lesley? We didn't know what would come of it. We just thought, we want to create this. We're curious. Let's do it, and we have. So thank you, those of you who've come along on the ride with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Because she says, because in the end, creativity is a gift to the creator, not just to the audience. And I think, you know, we've both had huge gifts out of this, haven't we? We've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And if you've been with us, thank you very much. Really, we really appreciate that, and any comments, of course. So it's a wrap, near enough. Yes,
it's a wrap. We don't want to finish now, do we?
No. And
I've already done my you know, my little cell.
Yeah, my book's there, and we'll put. There'll be an end piece in a minute with, you know, you'll see that with both our websites on, all the links. And I'll thank you, Cali, for suggesting this. Actually,
thank you, Lesley.
Really loved it. It's been great fun, hasn't it?
Thank you, Lesley, for working with me. It's been really great and doing it together. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. See you. Bye.